Chapter 3, Cookies. Toad baked some cookies. "These cookies smell very good," said Toad. He ate one. "And they taste even better," he said. Toad ran to Frog's house. "Frog, Frog!" cried Toad. "Taste these cookies that I have made." Frog ate one of the cookies. "These are the best cookies I have ever eaten," said Frog. Frog's a good friend. That was a compliment. I bet that made Toad feel good. Frog and Toad ate many cookies, one after another. "You know, Toad," said Frog, with his mouth full, "I think we should stop eating. We will soon be sick." "You are right," said Toad. "Let us eat one last cookie, and then we will stop." Frog and Toad ate one last cookie. There were many cookies left in the bowl. "Frog," said Toad, "let us eat one very last cookie, and then we will stop." Frog and Toad ate one very last cookie. "We must stop eating," cried Toad, as he ate another. "Yes," said Frog, reaching for a cookie. "We will need willpower." "What is willpower?" asked Toad. "Willpower is trying hard not to do something that you really want to do," said Frog. "You mean like trying not to eat all these cookies?" asked Toad. "Right," said Frog. So you can think about if you've ever had to use willpower where you wanted really, really a lot to do something or to eat something that you weren't supposed to or you weren't going to do, and you had to stop yourself. Frog put the cookies in a box. "There," he said. "Now we will not eat any more cookies." "But we can open the box," said Toad. "That is true," said Frog. Frog tied some string around the box. "There," he said. "Now we will not eat any more cookies." "But we can cut the string and open the box," said Toad. "That is true," said Frog. I wonder what they'll think of next. Frog got a ladder. He put the box on a high shelf. "There," said Frog. "Now we will not eat any more cookies." "But we can climb the ladder and take the box down from the shelf and cut the string and open the box," said Toad. "That is true," said Frog. Frog climbed the ladder and took the box down from the shelf. He cut the string and opened the box. Frog took the box outside. He shouted in a loud voice, "Hey birds, here are cookies." Birds came from everywhere. They picked up all the cookies in their beaks and flew away. "Now we have no more cookies to eat," said Toad. "Not even one." "Yes," said Frog, "but we have lots and lots of willpower." "You may keep it all, Frog," said Toad. "I'm going home now to bake a cake." It seemed like Toad really wanted the cookies, and he didn't really want the willpower. Let's go on to the next chapter, Dragons and Giants. Frog and Toad were reading a book together. "The people in this book are brave," said Toad. "They fight dragons and giants, and they are never afraid." "I wonder if we are brave," said Frog. Frog and Toad looked into a mirror. "We look brave," said Frog. "Yes, but are we?" asked Toad. Frog and Toad went outside. "We can try to climb this mountain," said Frog. "That should tell us if we're brave." Frog went leaping over rocks, and Toad came puffing up behind him. They came to a dark cave. A big snake came out of the cave. "Hello, lunch," said the snake when he saw Frog and Toad. He opened his wide mouth. Frog and Toad jumped away. Toad was shaking. "I'm not afraid," he cried. They climbed higher. They heard a loud noise. Many large stones were rolling down the mountain. "It's an avalanche," cried Toad. An avalanche is when a lot of stones or dirt all of a sudden just come down the mountain unexpectedly. Frog and Toad jumped away. Frog was trembling. I'm not afraid, he shouted. They came to the top of the mountain. The shadow of a hawk fell over them. Frog and Toad jumped under a rock. The hawk flew away. We are not afraid, screamed Frog and Toad at the same time. Then they ran down the mountain very fast. They ran past the place where they saw the avalanche. They ran past the place where they saw the snake, and they ran all the way to Toad's house. There they go, heading to Toad's house. Frog, I'm glad to have a brave friend like you, said Toad. He jumped into the bed and pulled the covers over his head. And I'm happy to know a brave person like you, Toad, said Frog. He jumped into the closet and shut the door. So they were saying all along that they were not afraid. But do we think that they were afraid? Yeah, there were some clues that showed that they were afraid. Like they were trembling and shaking and running away from the things that they said they weren't afraid of. And now Toad and Frog are at Toad's house, and one is in the closet and one is in the bed with the covers pulled up over him. Toad stayed in the bed and Frog stayed in the closet. They stayed there for a long time, just feeling brave together. And the last chapter for this story is called The Dream. Toad was asleep and he was having a dream. He was on a stage and he was wearing a costume. Toad looked out into the dark. Frog was sitting in the theater. A strange voice from far away said, "Presenting the greatest Toad in all the world." There he is. Toad took a deep bow. Frog looked smaller as he shouted, "Hooray for Toad!" "Toad will now play the piano very well," said the strange voice. Toad played the piano. He did not miss a note. "Frog," cried Toad, "can you play the piano like this?" "No," said Frog. It seemed to Toad that Frog looked even smaller. "Toad will now walk on a high wire, and he will not fall down," said the voice. The high wire is in a circus when it's a wire that goes across, and the people that will walk on it have to balance. So there's there's Toad on the high wire trying to balance. Toad walked on the high wire. "Frog," cried Toad, "can you do tricks like that?" "No," peeped Frog, who looked very, very small. So he's getting smaller and smaller in this dream. "Toad will now dance, and he will be wonderful," said the voice. "Frog, can you be as wonderful as this?" said Toad, as he danced all over the stage. There was no answer. Toad looked out into the theater. Frog was so small that he could not be seen or heard. "Frog," said Toad, "where are you?" There was still no answer. "Frog, what have I done?" cried Toad. Then the voice said, "The greatest Toad will now—" "Be quiet," screamed Toad. "Frog, Frog, where have you gone?" Toad was spinning in the dark. "Come back, Frog," he shouted. "I will be lonely." "I'm right here," said Frog. Frog was standing near Toad's bed. "Wake up, Toad," he said. "Frog, is that really you?" said Toad. "Of course it's me," said Frog. "And are you your own right size?" asked Toad. "Yes, I think so," said Frog. Toad looked at the sunshine coming through the window. "Frog," he said, "I'm so glad that you came over." "I always do," said Frog. Then Frog and Toad ate a big breakfast, and after that they spent a fine long day together. So Toad was doing all these really neat things in his dream, things that he wouldn't normally be able to do, but when he realized he didn't have Frog with him, he didn't really care about those things anymore, did he? He just wanted to find his friend. So remember, at the beginning of the story, we talked about how this was fiction and that usually fiction will teach us things. And this lesson was about friendship. So I hope you enjoyed the story. And again, boys and girls, I hope that you're doing a good job for your families and playing outside and doing some reading and having some nice time with your family. I will be coming to you again in another video, and just know I miss you, and enjoy the story. I'll talk to you soon.